we covered a lot about science majors and biology. Now, how about for the students who are maybe not so scientifically orientated, right? So they might be a finance major, or they might be a sociology major, and they need a science course. What do we have to offer those students?
Sure. And so Dr. Moricone here, you teach a bunch of those courses. In the past, and you've done this for a number of years, you've taught Bio 108, which is body structure and function. And it's essentially an introductory anatomy and physiology course for really mostly taken by speech pathology, speech communications majors. So I think anatomy and physiology course is one of those courses that they should take if they want to go on to graduate school. And so I know you teach that class, and you taught it for a number of years. So we used to teach an exercise science class, which was really popular, but unfortunately our adjunct professor has gone on and moved on, and so we don't do that anymore. We have a number of, and of course, Dr. Teresa Diversa, she teaches neuroscience for the psychology majors who want a minor in neuroscience. She teaches the neuroscience class. All of those are core classes, so that if you just want to take it for core, you can go ahead and take it. We are also trying to think about, just depending on the availability, frankly, of faculty. We also have environmental science, right, which also counts for core, although it is also a majors course for the ecology and environmental concentration within the major. And we have a few non-majors courses that are not actually for core. Although we also have, we're thinking about putting on DNA and biotechnology back into the schedule as a science core. But we also have a few non-majors, non-core classes, and they're mostly for nursing students, right? So we all know nursing is a new major that has been introduced in the last couple of years, I guess. And as part of the nursing major, in order to get into the nursing major, actually, you have to take a few prerequisite introductory science classes, that being anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, as well as microbiology. And you, Dr. Moricone, good for you. You stepped into that role of teaching those 2 courses, and so we're actually really grateful that you do that.
And I guess we can't forget about my Bio 128, which is a core class, Principles of Nutrition, which is also a core class.
Exactly. It's a core class, and of course, and also medical terminology. Although it's not a core class, it's actually very highly recommended for students who want to become physician assistant or even physical therapist. Many times recommend highly that students take that particular course. And so we have an array of different courses that we offer for those students who are not interested in majoring in biology. And so hopefully, students will enjoy them.
Yes, they have certainly the pick of the litter when it comes to the selection of courses. So moving away from that just a little bit, how about now our students that are involved in research in biology? Because there may be students who have other friends that are in biology research with us, but their friends don't even know that they're doing it.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure maybe we could hear about that.
Sure. So a number of our biology majors, and actually we have a few biochemistry majors doing research with our biology faculty. They do research. And what does that mean? It literally does mean you go up into the lab and you have a science project or a research project where you're trying to essentially solve a biological problem, right? And you perform your experiments, you get your data, you interpret the experiments, and then you can actually go ahead and either publish your findings, right, and add to the wealth of knowledge, right, that we already have, but the knowledge that we still need to gain, right? And so a number of our students do research with one of the faculty, right? And so I would say all of us, Drs. Muller, Dr. Zuckerman, Dr. Diversa, Dr. Andrick and I, we all have research projects. Dr. Zuckerman, right? It's great with him because he got a really big National Science Foundation grant, and he can pay his students to do research over the summer. And I know that we've also gotten a couple of other university-wide grants, right? That allows for so like the Noyce grant, the McNair Scholarship are all ways for students to do research, say, over the summer and get paid for it, get a stipend at least, right? And so all of us do have research projects, and it's really the student says, I would like to try. I would like to see what it's like. Many times they will start a project. And so right now I think the really active labs, right, are Dr. Zuckerman's lab. Well, he has that grant. Dr. Muller has a number of students. Dr. Andrick also always has a number of students. They're probably the more active labs right now, and all of them have students who do research. And what do? They go up into the lab, they perform experiments, and then they present their research mostly at conferences, undergraduate conferences like Iona Scholars Day, but we also have students present at different conferences, at regional conferences. So last year, Dr. Zuckerman was the director, and where he was acted as the liaison, where Iona University was the host for the Eastern Colleges Science Conference, right? And so the number of colleges get together where they share, right, a lot of their research with each other. And so we actually hosted that last year, and then I think it's going to be somewhere else, and so we'll have our students go there. We've also had students present at MACU, the Metropolitan Association of Colleges and University Biologists, and so not only do they do research, but they also get to present their research, mostly through poster presentations, but also by giving seminars, and also, frankly, being part of publications and contributing to the scientific knowledge that we have.
So specifically, can you divulge any topics that our students are working on now, or is that confidential?
No, absolutely not. So Dr. Zuckerman, and obviously he'll talk about his research project. He's really interested in this. He'll explain it a lot better than me. But he works on a bacteria called Myxococcus. And this bacteria is really neat, right? Because of the fact that Myxococcus, even though we all learn that bacteria is not multicellular, it almost acts like a multicellular organism at times. And so he explores some aspects, right, of that, and how different cells communicate with each other so that they can get together, form a multicellular organism. Dr. Andrick, right, so I'll talk about the three big labs. Dr. Andrick is an ecologist, a plant ecologist, who is really interested in environmental issues, and she studies an invasive species, particularly Cordylis. And so it's actually starting to really spread just in this local area, frankly, and it's actually thought to start causing a lot of ecological harm. And so she wants to know, where are these plants, what's happening, why is it that they are actually going ahead and spreading all over and taking over different areas. And then Dr. Muller, he has a few students. He actually works on yeast, right? So Saccharomyces cerevisiae, yeast, baker's yeast, the stuff that you bake with, actually is a model organism for research where people actually study yeast. Why? Because yeast, right, is a simple, what we call eukaryotic cell. It's a simple cell, but it does a lot of the stuff that we do, right? And so by simply looking at basic mechanisms, we can then apply to everything for the most part. So a lot of the cancer drugs, right, that we have today started with research on yeast, right? And so he works on calcium signaling. So how do yeast cells, right, recognize each other? How does information spread through yeast, right? And how is calcium involved? You never think about calcium other than bone, but it's actually really important in how our cells communicate with each other. So he's interested in that basic problem.
All great things happening at Iona University. So students that end up with this biology degree, where can they expect they're going to get a job?
Sure.
Briefly.
Right. So if they don't decide to go on, like so go on to professional school or go on to graduate school, most of our students end up getting jobs in the medical field, right? So they'll work at a hospital, but essentially in the pathology department where they're helping out, right, a pathologist. Or they'll work in a clinic, right? Or many times, a few of them will get an MBA and they'll work the business side, right? And so they'll actually go ahead and, because of their science knowledge, it puts them a little bit more knowledgeable about what's actually going on in the hospital. But because they're in business, right, they're still making, well, they're doing well. Let's just put it that way. Other students who don't go to medical fields, who don't get a higher degree, they go into biotech, right? And so they go into biotech where they go ahead and join a lab and they essentially, right, contribute to the research that's going on in a particular lab. So there's a lot of different biotech companies that are out there. The biggest one is Regeneron. They're hiring like crazy. And it's not just them, right? So, different cosmetics companies and
food science
companies
is great.
go ahead and hire some of our students. Those that do go on, right, and I would say the majority then get a higher degree. A higher degree, well, obviously medical doctor or physician, osteopathic doctor, physical therapist, physician assistant, you name it. Our students over the years.
Can't forget about dentistry.
And of course, dentistry and chiropractic. A lot of them go into the medical field. A few of them do get, like us, like me, PhD, and they'll either work for biotech or they'll try to get into academia, right? And so that's essentially where they go. So students who major in biology, yeah, you go into the scientific field, right? And so you have to really want to do science, right, for the most part, or go into medicine, and because it's a lot of work, right? Being a biology major is heavy duty stuff, right? And that's at the undergraduate level, but students just love it. Students just love it, and they're willing to work hard for it.
So this was great, really informative. If students that see this, whether they're current students or prospective students, what's the best way to get in touch with you to answer any questions?
Sure. So I'm right on the website. And so if you go to the, click on Arts and Science and Biology Department, you'll see my email, you'll see my phone. The easiest way to get to me is email. And so if you email me any questions, and I do field lots of questions from actually a lot of parents, but also students as well, that's the best way to reach me.
Okay, so thank you for being here today. Hopefully we could get everybody else from the department in here. I'm Dr. Lawrence Moricone for Iona University.